All right, so one of the things that people don't realize is how much their business operations affects their marketing. I've got some calculators that will help show us how much that matters. Let's hop right into it.
The Mammoth Plumber podcast with Tyler Williams on the mic. He's dropping marketing gold, making your business spike.
You may want to head over to my YouTube channel in order to see what I'm actually doing on screen. I'll try and explain the figures and things, but this is a calculator, so it's very visual. But first thing you need to do is go to tylerwilliams.net. That's where I have the calculator. Up in the top of the menu, you'll see resources and you'll see PPC and search ads calculator. That's the page that we're going to be looking at during this whole thing. And that will have some stats on it and some things. But that's what I want you to do first, so that way you know where to go and you can follow along, and then you can use this calculator yourself. Now, I made this calculator to help my account managers as well as us on sales calls and just helping people along with their search ads and lead generation ads to be able to help calculate what they could expect or might be able to tune the account to. This is a benchmark maker. This isn't truth. Truth is running campaigns, seeing what actually comes out of them, putting them in a calculator like this and going like, well, maybe we need to work on this, this, or this in order to tune those campaigns even further, right? So keep that in mind. Now, up at the top of the page, you will see that we have some industry benchmarks. One is your cost per click. How much are your clicks costing you on average? The other is your conversion rate. How many of those clicks turn into leads, okay? And I'll go over sort of what influences all these. Your average ticket is next, and I highly recommend that you use your business's historical average over at least a year's worth time. And then you've got your booking rate, which is how many of those leads actually turn into booked appointments. And then you've got your close rate, which is your sales, okay? How many of those appointments turned into revenue? What I want to do is talk through a campaign from start to finish, so that way you can see what these levers do when you change them up. Okay, so one of the first things we need to do is actually determine what your budget will be. We like to work in monthlies. So what we're going to do is we're going to say you were $1 million company last year. You want to be a little bit aggressive with your marketing this year. So 10% of that will be dovetailed over to marketing. And then let's just for giggles say, all right, 70% of that can go to PPC because maybe you're newer and you have decent brand awareness, but you really want to hammer the lead gen for whatever reason. So that's going to give you about $70,000. And if I do some simple math here, this is why God made calculators. We've got $70,000 and we're going to divide that by 12 to get $5,833 a month. So $5,833 a month. Now, I want to be completely honest with you. That is an average budget for a smaller company. When you start getting into larger companies, like it's not uncommon for us to see $20,000, $30,000 on PPC, depending on where you are at in your business. So if $5,000 scares you now, just wait until you grow. So looking at this, the next thing we got to do is figure out what your average cost per click is. Now, if you've been running PPC, you can absolutely go look at your old campaigns and say, well, this is what my average cost per click is. If you haven't been running PPC, I highly recommend that you look up a tool called Google's Keyword Planner. You can go into your ads account. It's a tool they provide, and you can start looking up what the cost for clicks are in your area. You'll see a low and a high. So for instance, plumber near me is one of the most sought after terms, right? And that can range anywhere from like $30 all the way to 120, depending on where you are. So it's really going to vary for each of you. And so I want you to get the data, try and use this yourself. So if we go average cost per click, let's say that, all right, we're getting $70 a click, which that's if you went straight for plumber near me and you really want to be number one. There's ways to get it lower. But let's just, for the sake of this exercise, say it's $70. Your conversion rate. How many people out of those clicks actually became leads? How many leads did you get out of it, right? And what we like to do with this is we say quality leads, not like, well, this is spam, or this one is in a different language, which is something that happens. This is a person looking for a job, things like that, right? We want to look for people who are the intent to hire a plumber or are exploring plumbers for service, right? So let's take this down because it's not going to be 50%. I can almost guarantee you that 20% is kind of what we hope to get. A lot of times we end up at 15. So let's go 17. And there are ways to throttle this as well. This is really dependent on really the brand equity you have in a community. This matters. That affects how well your pages convert. Whether or not you have a video on the page, you've got photos that are good, you've got your reviews up there, you've got you're tracking the leads well, because if you got a leaky hole, like, and leads are going somewhere else, that's a problem. But overall, the more that people trust you when they reach this point, the faster that they're going to actually convert, and the more are going to convert. Clients who've been in a community for 5 years, they tend to convert much better if they've been pretty heavy on advertising. So this is going to vary a little bit depending on where you are at with your business. So let's say 17%. Now, you've got your average ticket. Now, this comes into play later, but we had to put it somewhere. So average ticket is going to vary for you as well. If you're paying $70, your average ticket might be in line with whatever it needs to be for $70 for your clicks. If you're in a like more rural area, you have much less competition, you might have an average cost per click of $30. And so your average ticket won't need to be as high. So this is going to vary. I have seen plumbing companies at 500. I've seen it lower than that, but 500 all the way up to about $1,500 an average ticket. And I'm thinking service tickets. I'm not thinking like installs or remodels, anything giant like that. Those are kind of special cases. You can do this calculator around those, but you kind of need to segment that stuff out so that way you kind of have a good basis. What I'm looking for here is like residential service. Okay. So I'm going to say $800. And then you've got your booking rate. Your booking rate is how well your CSRs and your team is turning those leads into appointments. And this can be affected if you have bad leads coming in. Yeah, your booking rate's going to be lower. If you have good leads coming in, your booking rate's going to be higher. We like to look at our end, quality leads to booking rate, in order to figure this out. I will tell you, most people believe their booking rate is like 70 something percent. It's not. Average, way down here at 40. I love it when we get this thing up to like 65. But there is, like, unless you've been tracking this data, you will be surprised what your actual numbers are. And then that tells you, like, well, is it the lead or is it the person turning it into an appointment? And the flow about that. And most of the time, what's missing here is follow up on leads that didn't close, that didn't schedule the first time. You can really influence this if you get aggressive. And we'll go into that on another video down the road. So subscribe or follow me if you haven't seen this. So booking rate, let's say 40%. Close rate. Close rates are interesting because this is how well did your technician take that diagnostic or that appointment and actually turn it into revenue. Like, there's a lot of things that can affect this. It could be, oh man, we've got training that needs to be done on the technicians. It could be like, oh no, we had a payment processing problem. Seen that happen. Or it's something as simple as like the technician didn't realize, oh no, they needed to actually put the information into the right spot. Lots of different things, but it's all back-end business operations. Your marketing is kind of not a factor here. This is all about how well your company is converting that into revenue. So average close rate, 50 to 70, like 70 is going to be awesome, but talking to people and looking at what we see, it doesn't always get there. So I'm going to say 60%. And now we can look at the results. This is always the fun part. So, moral of the story here, this didn't work. This is not what I would say a good barometer for running this campaign without making some serious adjustments. So what we have is a cost to even run these campaigns of $3,113.16. For this, that, $5,833, we purchased 83 clicks. we got 14.1 leads. Our cost per lead was about $411, and our revenue potential was $2,719. Okay. But what ended up happening is we paid money, because there's a difference in here, to run these campaigns. Now, you still got the customer. You could say, well, I'm going to get that back on LTV. But you also have business operational costs in with this. And that this doesn't cover it for you. You've got vans running, you've got crew running, you're paying out the wazoo in other areas for this work. So I really, really want this to at least break even when you start running these campaigns. So now it becomes, well, okay, if those are the stats, should you just say, nah, we're never going to do it? No. What you end up doing is you end up going, all right, these are our stats. Now what do we need to work on to make this work? And this is why when you talk to a marketing agency that is truthful, honest, upfront, and just realistic with you, they will tell you that straight out of the gate, your campaigns might not do what you want them to do, and you have to tune them to get them into the zone, because there's a lot of data and factors that go into this. But first thing you got to do is start measuring. So let's say we take this cost per click down, and we want to try and get our cost per click to $50 a click, right? Or if we can get it even lower, that'd be awesome. But let's say we got our conversion rate up to 20. We kind of tuned that page, maybe added some things. And let's say you worked on your pricing. So you got your average ticket up to $1,200. This has happened in some of our cases with clients. And then let's say you really worked on the sales methodology with your CSRs and anybody who answers the phone. You really got like an after hours service and all this other stuff. And your booking rate got way better. Let's say you got that up to 60%. And let's assume that you actually reached a 70% close rate with your team. So now what do we got? Now we're starting to make some money off of some money. So you got 116 clicks, 23 leads. Cost per lead is now $250, which is a pretty stinking good deal overall for PPC. And you're looking at making $5,926 on top of paying back your ad spends. So that's where you can start going, oh, it's making me money. Is it making me as much money as I want? Can we tune this even further? Maybe we can get this cost per click down to 30. And now you're making $13,000 off of this campaign for the same cost going in. And that's when you start going like, okay, cool. Well, this is now running really well. What happens if we just, double our budget and throw $10,000 at this? And now for every $10,000 you throw in, you're walking away with $23,000 in revenue plus a stronger customer base at the end of it. And you're getting, 66 leads out of the whole thing. So, and I should have like how many customers actually booked, but I don't at the moment. So now I will tell you, one of the biggest challenges we have when working with people on their marketing is they don't know what's actually happening. This is why the call tracking and the form tracking and the looking at the scheduler, all of that is so important. Because when you start throwing these numbers around, you need it to be tuned in order to actually make money on the back end that makes sense for you to continue using the platform. And you have to in order to compete. So when we start listening to sort of the leads, we find that sometimes it's on the CSR team, like their booking rate is really low. And we try and look at qualified leads to actually booked appointments. And sometimes we're like, what's happening here? And we have to go in and tell the client like, hey, they're grumpy. They're not following up on the back end. We never see a circle back around to people who are like exploring. We also see that they're not even trying to convert people calling for competition or the other things that just happen, right? But if a customer is calling you because they need a plumber, you should do everything in your power to try and get that person into your ecosystem. If they decide, oh no, I'm sorry, I was trying to call somebody else, you should call that person back 20 minutes later and go like, did you get a hold of your other company? Because we can do this too, right? Be caring, nurture those leads. The other challenge that we have is just people not charging enough in order to make a platform like this actually work for their business because they're scared. They don't understand how much you actually need to charge in order to pay for the back end of their business most of the time. So we have to do some education on that. And so what I tell people is if you're trying to raise rates because you need to based on your market, you need to learn how to do it responsibly and slowly stair step your way up, and do some negotiations if you have to. That's okay. But try and get that average service ticket up over time. Booking rates, I already covered that. Close rates. That's something that is completely out of our hands, but man, consistently work with your team, work on yourself with your sales training. And there's a whole bunch of resources out there. We're working at like developing partnerships with some, but for some of our customers, their close rates are amazing. And the money they make on the back end is completely different than the customers who really just have a hard time closing. And it might be a team of 3 guys. It might be a team of 10, right? When you have 10 people out there, if you can lift the overall average of their closing, it's a huge difference to the back end of your business. So all this is like why some people start running things like lead generation campaigns and they're just like, I can't, this doesn't make any sense. They're like, I can't make this work. Honestly, a lot of it has to do with a bit of the marketing on the front end and business operations on the back end. And what I believe is that when you're working with a marketer, it's both of your responsibilities. Like the marketer is supposed to try and lower that cost per click, increase that conversion rate in order to bring you more quality leads, right? As best as we can. But you've also got to build the back end of the business and make sure that your team is accepting that and walking those people who call, because they're humans on the other end, into closed jobs that generate revenue for your company so you can grow and provide people with a better quality of life. So I hope this is insightful. I hope this gave you some tips. If you want to go over any of this, go to tylerwilliams.net. That's where the calculator is. But we also do consults for plumbers, and we'd be happy to sit and talk with you. Yes, we'll tell you what packages we have, but hey, more knowledge is power. And then you'll also know our pricing. So that way you can work that into your own systems as you're trying to figure out how to grow your company. You have a good one. We'll see you on the next one.
Want to grow your business? Here's the plan. Go to tylerwilliams.net and be the talk of the land. Now let me tell you the epic tale of how Tyler Williams became the marketing man. His story begins when he was just a year-old lad. His mother needed a plumber, but their ads were so bad. The house flooded and sank, and young Tyler was mad. Swallowed by the earth, into the abyss they fell. He blamed the bad marketing that led them to this hell. At 1 year old, he vowed to the stars above he'd harness marketing power and give plumbers some love. He's Tyler Williams, the marketing baby. From tragedy he rose to bring plumbers joy. With a vow to the stars and a plan in his hand, he's the one who saved them, the marketing baby. 10 years later he set out on a quest to find ancient secrets that would make him the best. He tamed Mark the Mammoth and rode the wilderness vast, fighting bland campaigns, leaving them in the past. In a glowing cave with light so bright, he found a dead wizard clutching tablets of might. For 30 long years, he studied those stones, deciphering marketing secrets that shook him to his bones. He's Tyler Williams, the marketing boy, imbued with power, turning pain into joy. With fire in his eyes and stone-carved campaigns, he brings plumbers the truth to ease their pains. 30 years later, he emerged from the cave, riding Mark the Mammoth, a legend so brave. Back to Alaska with tablets in tow, he chiseled new ads ready to make them glow. His campaigns were epic, like discovering fire. Plumbers were sore, lifted ever higher. He hit the launch button, the world wasn't prepared. Neighborhoods flooded with jokes as Tyler declared. After 40 long years of learning marketing power, the baby became a boy, the boy became a man. And now Tyler Williams finally became the fabled marketing man. with boldness and might, crafting campaigns that set everything right. He's bald, bearded, with glasses in place, laughs at his jokes, but they're never out of place. With a smile and a wink, he launches the show. His ads are dumb, but they make plumbers grow. He's the marketing man with campaigns so grand, bringing plumbers out of the Stone Age as he planned. So when you see Tyler, remember his quest. He's the marketing man who's simply the best, bold and bold with a mission so grand. He's Tyler Williams, the marketing man.